This is Jenkins Farms.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to Jenkins Farms. Another lovely day in the southeast. So last night and this morning early, we ended up picking up a little over 2.5 inches of rain here at the barn. Our fields down to the south got roughly 1/4 of an inch. And I just got a call from a buddy of mine that's about 10 miles north of here, and they'd gotten 6 1/4. So been some pretty serious storms moving through. Makes for a rainy day. Sometimes on rainy days, what do farmers do? Sometimes they go spend money, they go buy a boat, they go buy a 4-wheeler, a gun, they go do something fun. But most days you just keep on working like every other day, just like today. So today, since we know we've got to get with it as soon as it dries off, last night when I was finishing up in a field strip tilling, a couple of the bearings and the coulters went out, so we went and took those off this morning and brought them here to the barn. I'm going to go over with you how to change bearings in a coulter. It'll be fun. Here we go. Let's look at it. Alright, so I've got a confession to make. Usually things are not this pretty and nice and laid out. Usually wrenches are flying everywhere and hammers are scooting across the table and words are coming out of our mouths that aren't nice. But for the video purposes, I thought I'd show you kind of what we had to do. This is kind of going back to my days of being a paramedic when I used to work at Life Flight when I was a flight paramedic. We had to do a procedure. We'd lay out all of our stuff nice and neat, usually, if we could, and then we'd go to work on the patient. So that's what we did today. I was just going to kind of show you. So anytime you do any work around the farm, most of the time you're going to always need a hammer. You're going to always need a screwdriver. Lots of times you're going to need a cutting torch for either heat or for cutting purposes. Gotta have some Pre-All, best stuff known to man. Schaefer Citrol, that's good for cleaning grease and stuff off of things. Here's a little of Schaefer's penetrating oil that we still use sometimes. Got some strong magnets here. On this particular coulter, the end cap is missing, but typically you take a snap ring out and take it off, and it's hard to get the little plate. This is what it looks like, what would typically be there. It's just a plate with a snap ring on top of it. It's hard to get out, so we figured out stick a magnet on there and it just pops right out. You're gonna need pliers to take off the bullnose ring. You're gonna need a socket to take the bolt off, screwdrivers to help you with all this. Here's our hammer, here's our impact. Here's all of our, before we ever start taking something apart, we make sure we got all the right parts to put back in it in case somebody needs to be making a part run. This particular assembly comes in a little pre-packaged unit that has everything in it at one time to be able to change that. Usually on most things you have to buy each little individual piece one by one, but they have a little pack that you buy and it has everything in it that you need to change the bearing out. So let me get my gloves on because this is old burnt wheel bearing grease and I hate getting it on my hands if I don't have to. So let me glove up and we'll start taking it apart and I'll show you how. All right, so here we are. If you look, let's see how you should see how that's moving around. There shouldn't be any play in it, much less about to fall, slam off. It's about to fall off. So the first thing we gotta do is, and I don't like this design, but we have to take the bull nose ring out. That just helps keep it in there. Then we'll remove the nut that holds it onto the axle. It's a castellated nut, which means it has little holes in it. Let's see here. Little slots in it. And that's where you'd either put a cotter pin or bull ring or whatever. And the shaft actually has holes drilled in it, so this helps once it gets on there and you get it the right tightness, you put something through there to hold it, and that way it can't come unscrewed as this is spinning in the ground. We're gonna take our washer off. And then, see how easy that came off? Typically, they don't come off that easy. And you can see pretty much we knew it was going to storm last night, so we ran this all day yesterday with it about to fall off. We were just keeping an eye on it, but this is not, you can see all the rollers are gone, seals, everything's gone out of here. So we'll be building this back from scratch. Shut her off. All right, so remember a while ago when I was talking about all the tools we were going to use? I mentioned the cutting torch and how it's used all the time. Usually I don't have to use it when I'm changing these bearings, but since we ran it so long yesterday, it galled everything up and made it where I cannot get this part of the bearing off. This is not part of the shaft here, part of the axle. This is actually the inside. There's one that I took off. That's the inside, that's this part of the bearing that's stuck on the shaft. So I'm gonna take a torch. It's the oxygen acetylene torch. If you haven't ever seen one, it uses acetylene as a fuel and oxygen as the oxidizer. Basically what it does is it heats things up to where it gets red hot, and then you mash the button and the center hole here blows out a fast stream, a sharp stream of air, of oxygen, and that actually cuts right through the metal. So let me get it fired off here and I'll show you what we're doing. All right, so we'll start heating it up. I've got to tell you, used to I didn't have any trouble with this, but now that my eyes aren't as good as they once were, I'm gonna have to get something figured out. It's getting harder and harder to see when I'm up close like this. Just gonna do the same thing. All I'm doing is shaving the metal off the edge of it, and when I get down to the shaft, I stop. And I'll show it to you in just a second. All right, there it went. So you can see there, I just went down beside it, shaving the edge of it off till I could see the metal that was the shaft that I didn't want to be cutting. And then I just slowly slice across it, and then you can see on here, no harm. Nothing ever touched no cutting ever happened to the axle, which is what we want. It doesn't always happen like that. So we have all the old stuff cut off, all the old bearing and seal. We've got the races out. Now I'm just going to clean up the shaft a little bit so that the new bearings will go on. Usually I like to take a little emery cloth. Look at there, how pretty. Shine that sucker up and get any old stuff off. Like you can see there where it got boogered up just a little bit from running it yesterday when we should have stopped. But I barely got through as it was. And that's the only field we like being done there before we can move about another 20 miles down the road to the next set of fields. So polish this up, get a little citral from Schaefer's. Clean her all up. Another thing I didn't tell you a while ago, don't ever start this job without a roll of paper towels on hand. It's a John Brown mess. So I'm gonna put a little plug in for Schaefer's. I use Schaefer's engine oil and hydraulic oil in my tractors. I use their wet saw as a surfactant on my crops. The citral, let me tell you, I wouldn't advise spraying it in my mouth, but it smells so good it makes you want to spray a little bit in your mouth. And it works it's the best degreaser I've seen. Instead of using carb cleaner or brake cleaner or something like that, citral, I promise you, is the way to go. It's absolutely amazing. And it smells good. So now we got all the old stuff out, we've got everything cleaned up, and we're ready to go back together. So this part of the bearing is called a race. It's just a hardened piece of metal And if you come look at these are roller bearings. So each one of these little things here rolls. And it actually rolls on the inside of that. That's the inside part. So they roll around this, which is this part. So the bearing goes in the race like that, and that's what it runs inside of and spins around. So we're fixing to insert the races into the hub. Then I'm going to show you the proper way to grease wheel bearings, and we'll put it all together and we'll have the finished product in just a second. All right, so next it's time to grease our wheel bearings. And I'll tell you how I did it when I was a wee lad. I'd get me a handful of this wheel bearing grease, which is in here. You just reach in there and get a handful. It's made specifically for wheel bearings. And I'd rub it all over and I'd stick it in there. And then when I became a pilot, when we were doing an annual on a crop duster one day, when I used to fly crop dusters, it was my job that particular day to help repack the wheel bearings on the airplane. Well, let me tell you right now, I got made some serious fun of that day and called all kinds of names for not knowing the proper way to pack a wheel bearing. So that's the day I learned. So here's what you do. You take you some grease, just get your hands all in it and have fun. And you take it and you just start slowly doing like this. Until it comes out the other side. You can see right there it's starting to come out the other side. I'll show you again. So do this number and rub it against your hand. Get a little grease and rub it against your hand. And when you do that, you're pressing it. See here how it's coming all out this seal? That means it's going all the way through it and it's packed in there like it's supposed to be. So all those wheel bearings before my flying time, I did wrong. Now, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I always believe you need to do things right. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So once I learned the right way, I have always done that. Again, I don't know if it makes a difference or not. So it's packed all the way in there. And then put you some more on there. And you're ready to go. So we'll set that one. I gotta remember because one has this one. This one is a little bit different. It's sealed. It has a special seal on this end. So we still pack it the same way. You just don't see it as easy coming out. All right, so that one's ready to put in. It's all greased up. All right, so here we are. You can see we got it all put back together. We got our nut on, our hognose ring on, our cover, and our snap ring. And now you see there's no play, and it spins like it's supposed to. Job well done. Move on to the next, ever how many of them we got to do. Till next time.
Thanks for watching our video today. I hope it was something that was beneficial to you and that you enjoyed. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our upcoming action.